didn't hear you. You're early.
You want me to come back?
Just go scrub.
Yes, ma'am.
In this scene from Denis Villeneuve's 2017 film Blade Runner 2049, protagonist Kay returns to his apartment and is greeted by his robot girlfriend Joy. Okay, before you fact check me, Joy isn't actually a robot. She's an artificial intelligence that manifests as a 3D projection. Still, the term robot girlfriend tends to evoke a certain cringe humor, probably because we've come to associate it with incel types who can't get a real girlfriend and thus have to settle for an artificial one. Still, the idea of building the perfect woman has existed for centuries in literature, with one of the oldest examples being the myth of Pygmalion and Galatea. But what about more recent examples? Famous for popularizing the term android, The Future Eve is a stunningly misogynistic French novel written by Auguste Villiers de l'Isle-Adam and published in 1886. It follows a fictionalized Thomas Edison as he builds a robot girlfriend for his friend, Lord Ewald. You see, Ewald is engaged to a woman named Alicia, who he is madly in love with because she's super hot. There's only one problem. Ewald hates his fiancée's personality. Instead of being an adult and just breaking up with her, Ewald doubles down on his shallow douchebaggery and hires Edison to make an artificial copy of Alicia that is perfect in every way. Okay, so how does this relate to Blade Runner 2049? Well, like all genres, science fiction relies on intertextuality. This is not to suggest that Denis Villeneuve was intentionally referencing The Future Eve, but rather that certain concepts and ideologies have become entrenched in the genre over time. The concept of an artificial female companion who is programmed to serve the needs of her male creator, sexually or otherwise, is one that pops up again and again in science fiction. Often the text is intentionally critical of the patriarchal implications of this trope, a good example being the 2014 film Ex Machina. Other examples, such as John Hughes' 1985 film Weird Science, are decidedly less so. Okay, so where does Blade Runner 2049 fit into this? Right off the bat, there are two questions that I must ask. Does the film replicate or deconstruct the robot girlfriend trope? And how does it go about doing so? I would first like to draw your attention to the way that this scene calls attention to gender. When Joy first appears, she is dressed as a 1950s housewife, welcoming her husband home after a hard day at work and serving him a home-cooked meal. Note that the meal is also a projection, and Joy's hologram is slightly transparent. She's almost real, but not quite. Next, we see her transition between different outfits as she attempts to cheer up Kay. One moment, she's wearing a slick black two-piece and asking him to read to her. Next, she changes into a sparkly silver dress and asks him to dance. Finally, she settles on a romantic blue sundress, just in time for their embrace in the rain. Joy is literally transitioning between images of femininity, trying to find the one that will satisfy Kay. First, she's a caring housewife, then a cool girl who admires her boyfriend's taste in literature, and so on. The rapid way that she switches between not just outfits, but feminine personas suggests that the film is drawing attention to the artificiality of patriarchal gender roles, as well as the way that these roles are replicated and reinforced through technology and media. The power dynamics of this scene are also quite interesting to consider. Firstly, it should be noted that Kay is not Joy's creator. Additionally, Kay himself is a form of artificial intelligence that repeatedly experiences dehumanization throughout the narrative. Still, while Kay has clear desires, motivations, and agency within the narrative, Joy does not. She is a product purchased by Kay and designed to adapt to his needs and desires. Kay wants companionship and to have his personhood acknowledged, and Joy recognizes this and attempts to fulfill these desires.
I
I always knew you were special.
But what does Joy want? The closest thing we get is this line.
How was your day?
I'm getting cabin fever.
Ever the loving boyfriend, Kay gifts her an emanator, which allows her consciousness to be downloaded into a portable drive that he brings with him on his adventures. Note that Kay still controls where they go and when. We are then shown this scene, where Joy takes her first steps outside. Note that the rain passes right through her. Is she really experiencing this sensation, or is she putting on a show for Kay?
I'm so happy when I'm with you.
Again, observe how this intimate moment is repeatedly interrupted, first by a stream of light that reveals Joy's immateriality, and then by the phone call that puts her on pause. The romantic chemistry between Kay and Joy is disturbed by visual elements that emphasize artificiality and intangibility. We are left to wonder, are Joy's feelings and desires real? Is anything she does truly of her own volition? Or is she simply a program that has adapted to fulfill what Kay wants and needs from her? The Blade Runner series has always been deeply concerned with the question, what makes us human? In the original Blade Runner, the short answer is empathy. I would argue that 2049 adds another condition, self-determination. More specifically, the agency to develop one's own desires and to think and feel on one's own terms. Joy's programming denies her this agency, and this has a dehumanizing effect. No matter how much Kay cares for her, the power dynamic between them is inevitably skewed because Joy's agency and sense of self is inextricably tied to his own. Looking at Joy's role within the narrative, it would be easy to put her down as a conventional female love interest. She helps to establish and develop Kay's character, enables the delivery of expository dialogue, and of course is beautiful to look at. And yet, I find her presence to be a disruptive one that calls attention to how gender, technology, agency, and power function within the Blade Runner universe, as well as science fiction as a whole. Kay and the other replicants seek to assert their humanity in a society that deems them as other, and yet the existence of Joy suggests that the social, political, and economic systems of power in this society are far more complex than simply humans oppress replicants. As an artificial intelligence created by humans, Joy is the product of patriarchal modes of thought that validate the oppression, dehumanization, and commodification of the other, in this case, women. If it's not already clear, I believe that this film offers a deconstructive take on the robot girlfriend trope. Joy is a modern version of the future Eve, an artificial woman who has been carefully designed to be the perfect companion for the male protagonist, but is tragically unable to experience life on her own terms. Her very existence calls attention to the way that patriarchal gender roles and power dynamics are endlessly reproduced through the media and technology that we consume.
I've never had too much luck with females. I'm not confident unless I'm writing an email. But my life would be so sublime if I bought a robot girl online. I'd never hear her silicone mouth complaining about my dry scalp or for my excessive gaming. She's my small wonder, I'm her Voltron. I flip a switch and it turns her on. My robot girlfriend. The best relationship I'd ever be in.